In a bold and contentious move, the Trump administration has initiated plans to sever federal funding to Harvard University, a decision that could have far-reaching implications for the institution and its students. On May 27, 2025, a letter from the U.S. General Services Administration instructed federal agencies to cancel contracts with Harvard worth an estimated $100 million, marking a significant escalation in the ongoing conflict between the Trump administration and one of America's most prestigious universities. The letter, which was sent to federal agencies on the same day, underscores the administration's intent to not only cut existing ties but also to redirect future government business elsewhere. This latest action follows a series of funding freezes totaling approximately $3.2 billion in grants and contracts, which the administration has implemented over the past month. The underlying rationale for these drastic measures is framed by the Trump administration as a necessary response to alleged civil rights violations and perceived liberal bias within Harvard's admissions policies. Going forward, we also encourage your agency to seek alternative vendors for future services where you had previously considered Harvard, the letter stated, emphasizing the administration's commitment to ending what it views as a long-standing relationship with the university that is no longer tenable. The impact of these cuts is poised to ripple through numerous federal contracts, including research initiatives at the National Institutes of Health and training programs under the Department of Homeland Security. Harvard's leadership has responded vehemently, framing the administration's actions as an infringement on academic freedom and a retaliatory measure against the institution for its refusal to conform to political demands. President Alan M. Garber expressed deep concern over the administration's freeze on international student enrollments, characterizing it as detrimental not only to Harvard but to the broader academic landscape. "We condemn this unlawful and unwarranted action," Garber stated, adding that it imperils the futures of thousands of students and scholars across Harvard. The political context surrounding these developments is critical. Over recent months, Trump has aggressively targeted elite universities, accusing them of fostering an environment that allows antisemitism to flourish while simultaneously failing to promote what he describes as viewpoint diversity. The administration has claimed that Harvard's admissions practices are discriminatory, citing a decline in the percentage of black students enrolled after a Supreme Court ruling that barred race as a factor in admissions decisions. Critics of the administration's approach argue that these claims lack statistical backing and serve more as a political weapon than a legitimate critique of university policies. As the tension escalates, Harvard has initiated legal action seeking the restoration of its federal funding and the right to enroll international students. A recent court ruling temporarily reinstated Harvard's ability to enroll these students, but the ongoing legal battles suggest that this conflict is far from resolved. The situation reflects a broader cultural clash within the United States as higher education institutions grapple with issues of free speech, diversity, and the implications of federal funding. The repercussions of these actions extend beyond Harvard's campus. Experts warn that the administration's tactics could set a precedent for how federal funding is allocated to educational institutions across the nation, potentially stifling academic inquiry and innovation in research. As President Trump continues to rally his base against what he perceives as a liberal stronghold in academia, the outcome of this confrontation could reshape the landscape of higher education in America. As the conflict unfolds, it raises critical questions about the future of academic freedom, the role of federal funding in research and education, and the political dynamics that continue to influence educational policies. Observers remain keenly aware that the stakes are high not just for Harvard but for the entire ecosystem of higher education in the United States. As legal battles continue and political rhetoric intensifies, the implications of this confrontation will likely resonate for years to come. In a move that has ignited fierce debate over the role of elite universities in addressing social issues, Harvard University finds itself at the center of a political storm as former President Donald Trump targets the institution over allegations of failing to combat antisemitism on campus. This conflict escalated significantly when the Trump administration froze over $2 billion in research grants and contracts in April, asserting that Harvard had not taken adequate steps to address concerns surrounding antisemitism. Now the university is engaged in a legal battle, claiming that the administration's actions are not only unjust but also detrimental to national interests. Harvard President Alan Garber expressed his bewilderment at the administration's approach, stating during an interview with NPR why cut off research funding. "Sure, it hurts Harvard, but it hurts the country because, after all, the research funding is not a gift." He emphasized the critical nature of this funding, which supports work deemed essential by the government, including groundbreaking research in medical fields such as obesity and diabetes treatments. The funding freeze, he argues, disrupts valuable contributions to the nation's scientific and academic landscapes. The Trump administration's aggressive stance stems from Harvard's refusal to comply with demands that include changing hiring and admissions policies, eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs, and implementing stricter screenings of international students. In a recent statement, the administration's Joint Task Force on Antisemitism criticized Harvard, claiming that its lack of compliance reflects an entitlement mindset endemic in prestigious universities. They asserted that the harassment of Jewish students on campuses must be addressed if these institutions wish to continue receiving taxpayer support. Despite the administration's claims, a federal judge recently blocked the move to revoke Harvard's ability to enroll international students, a decision that Trump publicly criticized on social media. He asserted that the countries of many international students are not at all friendly to the United States and questioned their contribution to education costs. Meanwhile, Garber remains adamant that such punitive measures do not resolve the underlying issues of antisemitism but rather exacerbate divisions within the academic community. In the wake of these developments, Garber acknowledged that while challenges exist, particularly concerning free speech on campus, the university has made strides in addressing antisemitism. He pointed to recent awards received by faculty members for their significant scientific contributions, illustrating the positive impact of Harvard's research on public health and welfare. The kinds of changes that the administration has begun and is contemplating will affect all research universities and will have a real impact on the ability of the United States to remain at the forefront of science and technology, he warned. Garber's message to other universities is clear: they must stand firm in their commitments to education and truth. He emphasized the importance of fostering an environment where diverse viewpoints can coexist and be discussed civilly. As Harvard navigates its ongoing legal disputes and the broader implications of the Trump administration's actions, the outcomes of this confrontation may set precedents for how elite institutions engage with governmental demands and societal expectations moving forward. As the situation unfolds, it remains to be seen how the legal battles will resolve and what long-term effects they will have on higher education in America. With the stakes high for both Harvard and the broader academic community, the implications of this conflict will likely resonate well beyond the university's storied campus. The coming months will be critical in determining not only the fate of Harvard's funding but also the future of academic freedom and the role of elite institutions in addressing societal challenges. In a bold move that underscores a growing rift between the Trump administration and elite educational institutions, the federal government is poised to sever its remaining financial ties with Harvard University. A letter dispatched to federal agencies on May 27, 2025. Outlines plans to cancel approximately $100 million in federal contracts with the storied Ivy League institution. This action is part of a broader agenda aimed at what the administration describes as a necessary recalibration of federal funding in higher education, a development that has sparked significant debate across the nation. The letter obtained by the New York Times instructs federal agencies to identify contracts with Harvard that can be terminated by June 6. This latest directive builds on previously announced measures, including the freezing of about $3.2 billion in grants and contracts with Harvard since last month. The administration has framed its actions as a necessary response to what it claims is Harvard's failure to uphold civil rights and its alleged liberal bias. a narrative that President Trump has amplified during his campaign for a second term. Administration officials have accused Harvard of continuing to use racial considerations in its admissions policies despite a Supreme Court ruling that prohibits such practices. They have also pointed to instances of alleged anti-Semitic behavior on campus as justification for these funding cuts. The administration's stance is bolstered by claims from the Joint Task Force to Combat Antisemitism, which has criticized Harvard for not adequately addressing these issues. Harvard's leadership, however, has vehemently rejected these accusations. President Alan M. Garber described the administration's actions as perplexing and counterproductive. Why cut off research funding? Sure, it hurts Harvard, but it hurts the country because after all, the research funding is not a gift, Garber stated in a recent interview. He highlighted the critical role of federal funding in supporting high-priority research that ultimately benefits the nation. The ramifications of these funding cuts extend beyond Harvard's financial health. With about 6,800 international students making up 27% of its total enrollment, the university is grappling with the potential fallout from the administration's restrictions on foreign student admissions. Garber characterized these measures as unlawful and unwarranted, warning that they could jeopardize the futures of thousands of students and scholars. The administration's campaign appears to be part of a broader strategy targeting prestigious universities, which Trump has criticized for allegedly harboring Marxist maniacs and lunatics. This rhetoric resonates with a segment of the electorate frustrated with what they perceive as elitism in education. Trump's proposed tax on university endowments, if implemented, could cost Harvard an estimated $850 million annually, further straining its resources. As Harvard prepares to challenge the administration's actions legally, the broader implications for higher education are becoming clearer. The university is not only fighting to protect its funding but also to maintain its autonomy in shaping its curriculum and admissions policies. In its lawsuits against the federal government, Harvard argues that the administration's demands threaten its First Amendment rights and undermine the principles of academic freedom. As these developments unfold, the intersection of politics and education remains a contentious battleground. The outcome of Harvard's legal battles could set significant precedents for the relationship between federal funding and academic freedom across the United States. Observers are closely watching how this conflict will shape the future of not only Harvard but also other elite institutions facing similar pressures, with both sides entrenched in their positions. The coming months are likely to see intensified debates over the role of universities in a rapidly changing political landscape. In response to escalating trade tensions and looming tariffs imposed by the United States, Japan has unveiled a significant $6.3 billion economic relief package aimed at shielding its businesses and consumers from the adverse effects. As global trade dynamics shift under the leadership of President Trump, Japan finds itself at a crossroads, grappling with both economic pressures and political challenges ahead of crucial elections. On May 27, 2025, Japan's Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi announced the spending initiative designed to support small and medium-sized enterprises as well as subsidize household energy costs. This move comes amid fears that Trump's tariffs could exacerbate an already fragile economic climate in Japan, where rising consumer prices and substantial government debt have left citizens increasingly anxious. The economic implications are significant. Experts warn that the auto tariffs alone could have Japan's economic growth in the coming year. The automotive sector, which is vital to Japan's economy, is particularly vulnerable. Major manufacturers like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan are already feeling the pinch. Toyota has projected a staggering $1.3 billion reduction in profits for just 2 months, while Nissan is contemplating the closure of 2 plants and a shift of some production to the U.S. to avoid the tariffs. This ripple effect threatens not only jobs within these corporations but also within the vast network of smaller suppliers that rely on them. Japan is not alone in its struggle. Countries such as Spain and Canada have also initiated plans to mitigate the impact of U.S. tariffs. Spain recently announced a $15 billion aid package while Canada has set aside billions to support its workforce. However, Japan's political landscape complicates its response. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba is under pressure from opposition parties to take a more aggressive stance in negotiations with the U.S., especially with elections for the upper house of parliament approaching in July. The negotiations themselves have been challenging. Japan's chief tariff negotiator Ryosei Akazawa met with U.S. officials last week. But progress has been slow. The Trump administration has indicated that Japan's primary demand for an exemption from auto tariffs is not negotiable. Despite the impasse, Akazawa expressed some optimism for a breakthrough during an upcoming meeting in June coinciding with the Group of Seven summit in Canada. The implications of these tariffs extend beyond immediate economic concerns. Japan's relationship with the U.S. is multifaceted, encompassing not only trade but also security. The U.S. remains Japan's primary ally in a region fraught with geopolitical tensions, including threats from North Korea and an increasingly assertive China. This strategic alliance complicates Japan's position. While it seeks to protect its economy, it cannot afford to jeopardize its security relationship with Washington. In navigating this precarious situation, Japan has some tools at its disposal. The country is a key player in the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership (CPTPP) and has opportunities to strengthen ties with other nations in this bloc. Additionally, Japan could explore increasing imports of U.S. agricultural products or liquefied natural gas to appease American demands without compromising its economic interests. As Japan faces the dual challenges of economic vulnerability and political pressure, the path forward remains uncertain. The government's ability to negotiate effectively with the U.S. while addressing domestic concerns will be crucial in the coming months. With elections on the horizon and a pressing need for economic stability, Japan's response to these tariffs will likely shape its economic landscape and political dynamics for years to come. As global trade tensions continue to evolve, all eyes will be on Japan to see how it navigates this complex interplay of economic necessity and political survival. In a political landscape marked by division and legal battles, recent developments underscore the ongoing tensions within the inner circle of influential figures and the broader implications for governance and legal accountability. As the nation commemorates Memorial Day, President Trump's public appearances juxtapose sharply with the legal maneuvers occurring in places like Santa Clara County and San Francisco, where local leaders are stepping up their fight against Trump's administration. At Arlington National Cemetery, President Trump honored Memorial Day alongside military officials and veterans, emphasizing the sacrifices made by American servicemen and women. "Today we remember those who paid the ultimate price for our freedom," he stated, reflecting on the significance of the day. This solemn observance serves as a reminder of the values that underpin American democracy. Yet it takes place against a backdrop of pronounced political strife and legal confrontations. In California, Santa Clara County is on track to surpass its previous record of lawsuits filed against the Trump administration, signaling a robust local response to perceived overreach and violations of law. County Counsel Tony Lopresti highlighted the importance of these legal challenges, stating, "We are the first and last lines of defense for our community." This sentiment resonates deeply as local governments increasingly position themselves not just as administrative bodies but as active participants in the national dialogue surrounding governance and accountability. The legal strategies employed by Santa Clara and San Francisco reflect a broader trend across the nation, where local jurisdictions are taking matters into their own hands in response to federal policies. The strategic litigation aims to protect local interests and uphold constitutional rights, showcasing how grassroots efforts can influence the national agenda. With each lawsuit, these counties not only challenge federal authority but also galvanize public opinion in favor of their stances. The intersection of these two narratives, Trump's public memorials and the legal battles led by progressive counties, illustrates a nation grappling with profound ideological divides. As local governments assert their autonomy, they are also navigating the complexities of federalism in a polarized environment. The implications are significant. These legal confrontations may shape not only immediate policy outcomes but also the future of political engagement and accountability in America. As this Cold War within Trump's inner circle continues with factions vying for influence and clarity, it remains to be seen how these dynamics will evolve. The outcomes of the legal challenges in California may set precedents that resonate far beyond state lines, impacting how future administrations interact with local governments. The coming months will likely reveal whether these legal battles will yield meaningful change or further entrench divisions within the political landscape. As the nation reflects on its history and the sacrifices made by its citizens, the unfolding story of legal resistance highlights the ongoing struggle for justice and representation in a complex democracy. In recent weeks, President Donald Trump's approach to foreign diplomacy has drawn both attention and criticism as he navigates complex international conflicts. His administration has touted a series of diplomatic achievements, including the release of an American hostage in Gaza, negotiations to withdraw U.S. forces from Yemen, and even a momentous Indian-Pakistani ceasefire. However, the reality of these diplomatic maneuvers has proved far more challenging, with significant setbacks and tensions emerging in regions critical to U.S. foreign policy. Trump's self-proclaimed peace through strength strategy has been a cornerstone of his administration's foreign policy narrative. The former National Security Advisor Mike Waltz championed this approach, suggesting that a show of strength could compel adversaries to concede without resorting to military action. Yet, as Trump has discovered, the intricate web of international diplomacy is seldom straightforward. In a recent press conference, Trump expressed frustration over escalating tensions in Ukraine, particularly following renewed Russian airstrikes that resulted in civilian casualties. "I don't know what the hell happened to Russian President Vladimir Putin," Trump lamented, reflecting a growing disillusionment with the Russian leader's intentions. Trump's comments came on the heels of a rare dialogue between Ukrainian and Russian officials, which resulted in a limited prisoner exchange but little else, highlighting the enduring impasse over territorial disputes. The complexities of Trump's diplomatic engagements are further underscored by protracted negotiations with Iran regarding its nuclear program. Despite Trump's optimistic assertions of very good talks, the reality remains bleak. Iranian officials have dismissed the discussions as unproductive, emphasizing their commitment to uranium enrichment as a matter of national pride. Secretary of State Marco Rubio articulated a stark divide between U.S. expectations and Iranian demands, stating that any deal hinges on Iran's compliance with U.S. demands. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has countered, asserting that zero enrichment equates to no deal, intensifying the standoff. Adding to the diplomatic turmoil, Trump's administration has faced backlash over its handling of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, where negotiations have faltered amid escalating violence. A recent proposal for a temporary ceasefire was rejected by Israeli officials, illustrating the tensions that persist within the region. The administration's inconsistent messaging has left Palestinian leaders disillusioned, as evidenced by the tragic humanitarian fallout from the ongoing conflict. Reports indicate that the blockade on Gaza has resulted in severe shortages of food and medical supplies, leading to preventable deaths and suffering. Moreover, Trump's erratic style of diplomacy has raised alarms among foreign leaders. A recent meeting with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa devolved into a tense confrontation as Trump espoused unfounded conspiracy theories regarding land ownership and violence in South Africa. Such incidents reflect a broader pattern of confrontational diplomacy that has left international partners wary of engaging with an administration that appears to prioritize spectacle over substance. As Trump's administration grapples with these multifaceted challenges, it confronts a crucial question: will it adapt its strategies to achieve meaningful diplomatic outcomes? Or will it persist in a cycle of blame and deflection? The stakes are high, with ongoing conflicts in Ukraine, Gaza, and Iran demanding not just rhetorical resolve but also concrete action and political compromise. Looking ahead, the future of U.S. diplomacy under Trump remains uncertain. The administration faces the dual challenge of managing international expectations while addressing domestic political pressures. As the complexities of global relations continue to unfold, Trump's ability to navigate these turbulent waters will be crucial in defining his legacy on the world stage. The coming weeks will likely reveal whether his administration can transform its ambitious diplomatic overtures into lasting peace or whether it will succumb to the pitfalls of its confrontational approach.